Hey everybody, just going to take a quick break from the show to get you styled up with Stitch Fix. Shopping's hard. It's hard. With Stitch Fix, you get a stylist, though, who understands your style, your size, your budget, and they do all the shopping for you.
Wow.
This is excellent. Shopping, I'm telling you, shopping and figure out your style, it's overwhelming. Let somebody help you when it comes to getting dressed. We don't know what we're doing, so we let Stitch Fix help us out. A Stitch Fix stylist there. They know what works on us. We get the prices that make us look really good, and it feels good. You get some confidence boost walking around knowing that you're looking decent here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we just give the stylist our sizes, style, budget preferences. We order boxes when we want, how we want, no subscription or any of that required. And they send called Just For Me pieces as well. Like, maybe you'd like this, and it's awesome. Outfit recommendations, styling tips. You keep what you love, you send back the rest. It's super easy.
Yep.
You can do it, and we are doing it because it's excellent. Personal styling for everyone. Get started today at stitchfix.com/STM. That's stitchfix.com/STM.
Now back to the show.
Hey everybody, just going to take a quick break from the show and tell you about Noom. Has Noom helped you? I believe it has.
Oh, that's got an app. You can do tracking. It's terrific.
It does. And Noom builds personal plans that can meet individual needs. That's the thing. Takes into account any dietary restrictions, medical issues, other personal needs. That helps build a plan that works for you. And yes, so I know that you've had your own personalized program here that you've been working on. And
it's weight loss This is weight loss results that last. They stick around because you get yourself into a lifestyle change. That's what matters.
That's mainly it. You can't just say, I'm going to cut that out for a month and then go back to it. That's not what it is. So I'm glad it's helping you. That's great. And it really does. I like the psychology and biology-based approach here. Yeah. Noom Weight uses psychology. That's why they say losing weight starts with your brain, but it also takes into account your unique biological factors, Jimmy. All of your multitude flora and fauna that goes on inside of you there.
Sure. Yeah.
Stay focused on what's important to you with Noom's psychology and biology-based approach. Sign up for your trial today at Noom.com, Noom.com here. Based on 3.5-year study of actively engaged Noom users with minimum starting BMI of 25. Individual results may vary. Visit our website for more information.
Welch's knows some things make zero sense, like why the algorithm knows your music tastes better than you do. But zero sugar and full flavor? We made that make sense with new Welch's Zero Sugar. All that passion fruit or tropical punch goodness and none of the sugar. You gotta sip it to get it. New Welch's Zero Sugar. Let's fruit stuff up.
Hello, and welcome to Small Town Murder Express.
Yay, and choo-choo.
Oh, yay indeed, Jimmy, yay indeed. My name is James Pietragallo. I'm here with my co-host.
I'm Jimmie Whisman.
Thank you, folks, so much for joining us today. All aboard the murder train. We are pulling away from the station, chugging along. We have a wild episode as usual today, going somewhere we have not been in years. We're going to Alaska. It's been like 4 years since we did an Alaska episode, so we're going to visit. It's so strange, too, Jimmy. This is very different than last week's Express with all the... There's like financial people and people that went to Brown University.
Can't relate to any of it.
If someone went to Brown University in this, it would just be a euphemism for they shit their pants. That's how it would be. They'd be like, I went to Brown University last night. And everybody would be like, oh, that sucks, man. That's what this would be. We'll get to that very quickly, top of the show. Just have to get this out of the way. ShutUpAndGiveMeMurder.com is the website. Head there. Get your tickets for live shows, especially September 10th at the Pabst. Yeah. We're almost sold out. It's almost there. Yeah. We're getting there. It's going to be our biggest show ever. So Milwaukee, represent. Be bigger than Chicago, bigger than Minneapolis, be bigger than Boston. It'll be our biggest show we've ever had anywhere. So we can't wait to say Milwaukee is the best. So please do that. The next month we will be in Orlando and Tampa also for 2 shows each night in September. So get your late September. So get your tickets for that as well. And also a couple of tickets opened up for that Austin, Texas show I saw, because these are, rescheduled dates. So people can return their tickets. So keep checking. If you see a show that's sold out, keep checking back. Their tickets pop up. So keep doing it. Check all that out. And then patreon.com/crime and sports. Get all your bonus stuff for Small Town Murder. And this week, you're going to get, as you do every other week, every 2 weeks, you're going to get 2 new episodes. This week for Crime and Sports, we're going to talk about the Brett Favre dick pic scandal. All about Brett Favre, his little freckle pecker, and him sending it to people. And then we're also going to talk about a couple other sports sex scandals, like a female golfer that allegedly forced her caddy to impregnate her with risk of his job otherwise. Like, very strange stories. We'll talk about that. And then Small Town Murder, we're going to talk about 2 of the worst people that have literally ever existed. Leonard Lake and Charles Ng. Terrible people. We'll talk about them kind of in their own words, and they're pretty gross words. So we'll talk about that and make a lot of fun of them, because what else can we do? Patreon.com/crime in sports is where you get all of that stuff. And you'll also get a shout out at the end of the main show where Jimmie will mispronounce your name. That said, he'll try, but it won't work out. That said, I think it's time to sit back, everybody. You ready? Clear the lungs. Where are you? In the kitchen? In your car? On the way to wherever you are, unless it's maybe not on an airplane or at your kid's school or anything like that. But, any non-public place, I'd like you to sit back and shout, Shut up! Give me murder. Let's do this, Jimmie. Let's go.
All right, let's run.
Let's go on a trip, shall we?
Yeah.
We're going on a long trip. Our Express episode last week was in Rhode Island, and we are going to Alaska, which is way different.
Russia.
It's almost the North Pole, except this is like the most southern part of Alaska you can get here, pretty much.
This is like that tail?
This is Kodiak, Alaska. It's not the tail that comes off. It's inside of that tail. It's a little island on this like south central Alaska. It's a little island, sits off by itself. Just this little island, man. And it is like, it seems like time forgot it. And it's beautiful. I mean, it's gorgeous. The trees, it's less cold. It snows less there. It's kind of a different climate than the mainland.
Closer to Seattle,
Yeah, but not too. I mean, it's right by the Alaskan shore there. The population here is 5,808, so not that big. Median income $69,868. So not
doing great.
Not overly wealthy. It's not like a haven. It's not Martha's Vineyard or Nantucket or something. Is what I'm getting at. Median home cost $361,600.
Okay,
and I would assume it's going to cost more to get materials there. Yeah. Mainly because, as we'll talk about, it can only be reached by ferry or plane.
Stop it.
You can't drive to Kodiak. It's impossible. So you can't truck anything into Kodiak. It all has to be ferried in on a truck or flown in, which is going to add exponential, fees to anything you're doing.
Sure.
So the motto here, Alaska's Emerald Isle. Okay. So, I mean, they're really pushing it, man. They're
Alaska's Ireland? Is that
Alaska's Ireland, yeah. It's, come here and we'll all be drunk and bump into each other. It's perfect. Quick history of this town here. It was originally named Paul's Harbor. Just some guy named Paul found it, and he's like, this is mine now.
Oh, shit. Yeah.
This is mine. It used to be the capital of Russian Alaska, when Alaska belonged to the Russians. Yeah, this was the capital of Russian Alaska, was Kodiak, which is interesting. In 1964, a tectonic tsunami struck the city. That sounds terrible. That's like an earthquake that caused a tsunami. That's bad. This was during the 1964 earthquake. 30-foot waves came and killed 15 people and caused $11 million in damage in 1964 money. So that's, $80 billion now. 80 quadrillion, who knows, dollars.
No surfers benefited?
No, not even that. Well, they died. That's all 15 people were surfers. They all perished. They said it was, quote, the gnarliest wave ever, and then they were submerged, and we never saw them again.
Frankie Avalon back to the beach.
Yep, he's going out like that. Total Point Break, man. It's a total Point Break situation. The Standard Oil Company has a place here, of course, and also the Alaskan King Crab Company was there. But much of the fishing fleet was destroyed by the waves.
I'm sure.
So that's not good, and it wiped out some villages. There was a big antenna farm at the summit of Pillar Mountain above the city. And that's the only way they had communication with the outside world, was an antenna farm until fiber optic cable finally was run out there to the island.
Stunning.
That's crazy, man. Yeah, all travel to and from the island, ferry service, and on the Alaska Marine Highway, and then commercial airlines. That's all you can do, or private.
Otherwise, you just stay there.
Otherwise, you can swim for it. I don't think you're going to make it, but good luck. It's cold.
Man.
Reviews of this town, 5 stars. Kodiak is a beautiful outdoor paradise. I love the fishing and hiking, and the scenery is fantastic. The people are very friendly and love to meet new people. Small town atmosphere and safe. The town is very walkable.
Yeah.
Wow, this just sounds like it's a little Mayberry in the north.
Very cold one.
3 stars. We're in a rainforest. It rains a lot. Well, that's a rainforest. Yeah. We got that with your first sentence. In the winter, we get a lot of ice. Really? Hold on. In Alaska, in the winter, you get ice. Now,
get out of here.
Nah, I don't believe this person. I don't believe him. Any other obvious things you want to point out here? The sky is up. We have lots of wind, but most of the residents are used to it. Most people wear extra tufts and raincoats. Never use an umbrella. The wind is too strong. Those are just tips.
Yeah.
Here's one, 3 stars. To get to the mainland, the only option is a ferry to Homer or Whittier or to fly to Anchorage. Traveling around the town by foot is decent. In the winter, there's a lot of ice. Again, we get it. Thank you. Jesus.
You don't have to warn me.
Cars typically slow down for pedestrians. What, they don't gun it and run them over? That's good to hear. Very friendly.
A little different from Manhattan around here.
Real small town atmosphere. They don't intentionally run you down. The speed limit in town never exceeds 45 miles an hour, so you're just always frustrated while you drive. Yeah. Sounds wonderful. Here is 3 stars. Remember, walkable and safe, okay? 3 stars. Multiple registered sex offenders live nearby my house. Flocks of kids and teens wander around the streets at all times of the day. Well, that's not good with all these sex offenders around.
That's why they're here.
It's like a bird feeder out there. Get these guys in the house. What the fuck's happening?
They tell you to bag up your trash at night because it attracts bears.
Yeah, that's what I mean. This is the same thing. They come out sniffing around about 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Stop putting pedo milk bones out in the yard.
They just paw at kids. Weird. Things to do here. There is only one thing to do, and I mean, nature is a thing to do here. It's fucking beautiful. Obviously, do anything, but the thing that's organized is the Kodiak Crab Festival.
Oh, now you're talking,
baby. That sounds good. But some of the events in it are a little weak here. The rubber duck race. Obviously, the first rubber duck though, the winning duck gets $1,000.
Not bad.
That's a good prize. The Kodiak's Elk Lodge here. This is good prices. Here we got beer bratwurst with your choice of fixins for $6.50. A prime rib French dip sandwich for $12.50. Beer, 12-ounce beers are $4 at a festival. Hey, that's pretty goddamn good. Not bad at all. And then finally, live music featuring Homebrew, BRU.
Hey,
I don't know.
Already.
Yeah. It's a brother and sister team. Oh, boy. Matt and Chelsea Brewholer. Brew. Oh, boy. There we go. That said, let's talk about a murder here. Yeah. Okay? Let's do it.
Tell me about the brouhaha.
Let's see what brouhaha takes place in Alaska. To do this, we have to go back in time a little bit. I like it. We're going back to 1970.
Oh.
Yeah, 1970. And when you picture 1970, everybody pictures kind of, you get some hippie thing in your head. You get Richard Nixon pops in there. Vietnam comes in there. You see the protests and hippies, the whole deal. Summer of Love before that, everything like that.
Psychedelic shit.
Take all of that, ball it all up, and pack it tight like a snowball and throw it right in the garbage because
throw it back to 1940.
We're in Alaska. None of that's happening here.
They don't know about it.
No, it takes a long time for culture to get up here. Back then, internet now, I mean, the same shit is the same everywhere. The kids in Samoa are fucking watching the same TikTok videos as the kids in, Kansas. It's all the same.
Big Pop Smoke fans.
Yeah, exactly. It's all the same shit. So, but back in 1970, Their culture took years to spread inland in the States, and to Alaska, forget about it, because that's practically the middle of nowhere. Not practically, it is. So let's talk about a man here named James Condon, Condon. Yeah, he's 29, and I must say right off the top here, very frustrating to research any story featuring a man named James Condon, because Google does not want to fucking recognize that this man exists. They want him to be James Condom. So when you search it, it doesn't even say, you know how it'll say, like, did you mean James Condom? And then under it, it'll say, only show results for Condon. Here, it doesn't even say that. It just says James Condom is what you meant James Condom. Here's results for that. And I'm like, that's not what I want.
Who is James Condom?
Nobody. That's the other thing.
He doesn't even exist.
No, it's just, I guess, because people call a dick a Jimmie and a condom, and a condom sometimes.
Jimmie hat.
There's Jimmies and there's condoms, and somehow that all goes together. So if you search James Condom, James Condon, his name is James Condom. Which is
poor bastard,
just frightening as shit. It sucks. Fuck him. What about me? I had to look this up. He's 29 in 1970. He doesn't have to live with Google. I do. He's 80 goddamn years old at this point. He wouldn't be on Google.
Google's trying to get you the James size of condoms.
So he lives in Kodiak, not even in Kodiak. They live on the outskirts of Kodiak in an area called Bell Flats, which is
still in the island.
Yeah. No, it's all together on the island. This is just a wilderness section outside of the main part of town. So you got Kodiak, which is remote, and then go outside of that.
You got an Alaskan holler.
Yeah, it's kind of what it is, an Alaskan holler. And when I describe the living situation, you're going to go, wow, this is very Phillips, Oklahoma, West Virginia. What's going on here? He lives with his wife and his daughter. He's got a young baby daughter. He's got kind of a young baby wife as well, as we'll talk about here. As he describes it here, we're talking about June 1970. Quote, his wife will, quote, be 18 in December.
Nope.
And they already have a 2-year-old here.
Nope.
Yeah, and he's 29.
Nope.
James
should have worn a condom.
James needs a condom. His middle name should be Needsa. The fucked up part is his middle name is A. I don't know what it stands for. I haven't found that, but it's A. So James needs a condom. Just put needs in there. We'll tell you how him and his wife got together a little later, because it's better to hear it in the way I have it presented later on. Trust me, it's much funnier.
You can't be 29 and have 12 years difference between you and your wife.
I would say not. No, and also have a toddler running around the house.
No.
That's not okay, I don't think.
God.
So he and his, quote, wife, his wife, child, and their child, they live in a quonset hut.
Well, tell me what
they live in a quonset hut, Jimmie. Now, we've had a lot of weird
on the end of any dwelling, and I can take a picture of it's rudimentary. It's a lean-to.
It's definitely not a fully.
It's something you do for the weekend.
No granite countertops, I guarantee you that. It's nothing like that. This is like a corrugated steel building. It's basically a storage shed. Yeah. It's a storage shed that if you live in it, you call it a quonset hut.
Makes it sound like you're doing something for the environment.
Yeah. It makes it sound like they do quonset huts as like they would do that for like temporary. The military will put that up for like temporary housing for like, a refugee situation or a major natural disaster or something. That's what they put up, quonset huts.
Like a domed barrack?
It's kind of like a corrugated steel, kind of like a shed. I mean, like a backyard shed, but a little bigger. You can make them any size you want, but they're not. It's just to block you from the wind, essentially. That's all it's really.
Temporary living quarters. This is not meant to be toughed through.
It's not. No one dreams of eventually acquiring a quonset hut. That's not the. That's not the dream anybody has. Oh, we're going to have an aluminum picket fence. That's going to be nice.
And if they do, it's because they have a tarp taped to the side of a CVS right now.
That's why. Yeah, they got kicked out of the CVS. They were living in a dugout hole in the ground in the forest, and now they've acquired a quonset hut. And The problem I see with this is we're not trying to make fun of people with bad housing situations and shit. Like if you're homeless and you live in the ground, that really sucks. But if you're a dirtbag who's 29, able-bodied, and fucking married to a teenager, I'm going to make fun of you wherever you live. I don't give a shit. If he lived in a nice house, we'd find a way to make fun of that because I don't like this guy right now. Mr. Condom can eat shit at the moment. So he doesn't live... I take that back. I overinflated their situation, okay? They don't live in a quonset hut. They live in half a quonset hut, which they share with another family. A whole quonset hut to yourself and your child is still not great. But if you have to share it, not good.
You're really not doing great.
That's not good. He shares it with Isidore Cordova and Richard Barnes. These are two men who... two other guys who live in the other half of the quonset hut. So it's him, his teen bride, their toddler, Isidore Cordova, and Richard Barnes, all living in a quonset hut in the middle of nowhere in an island in Alaska that can only be reached by plane or ferry. This is small town murder. This is I wanted to tell everybody last week when I'm reading the things and I'm like, we've never had people that sound like this on the show before. Everybody's educated. I wanted to say, like, next week, don't worry, there'll be people shitting in buckets. I guarantee you. And that's exactly
none
what
of
we
these
have.
guys have a commodities portfolio?
I doubt that there's a commodities portfolio in this group. And if they did have one, they'd burn it for warmth, I think. It wouldn't matter. I think it would have been long burn for warmth.
Trying their best to get fiber out of the paper as they eat it.
As they eat it, yeah. That's what. Wow, that manila folder's full of fiber. Give it to the little girl. She needs fiber.
Holy shit.
Wow, this is a mess. So now next door, there's another quonset hut. This isn't, by the way, a private quonset hut situation that you're sharing. It's a little
Quonset hut park.
It's a little, it's like a trailer park of quonset huts. It's a quonset shanty town.
Yeah.
So next door to them is Timothy Peter Bean. I guess it's Biehn. There's an actor with that name, and it's Bean. So I'm going with Timothy Peter Bean. He's 27, and his wife lives with him and his two children. And his wife is pregnant, so there's another on the way.
About to be 3.
So it's about to be 5, a family of 5 living in a quonset hut, which doesn't sound probably preferable. Mm-hmm. So the morning of June 17th, 1970, this is the nice time. It's beautiful outside. This is like... If you're going to go do outdoor stuff and like this is exactly when you want to do it. The fishing's probably good. It's amazing right now. It's perfect.
The water's still cold that there's probably salmon fucking everywhere.
Oh God, everywhere. Salmon, probably get halibut up there. Holy shit. It's probably so
probably
good.
Noodle a halibut at this point.
Oh, you just reach in and grab one with your bare hands. Pull out a halibut with your bare hands. A big one. Not even noodle. You just reach in off the boat and you pull it up over your head.
They swim up to your arms.
They do.
They're 30 pounds. They've had enough of this.
They eat from your hand, so they're easier to catch. When they're eating from your hand, you grab them by the other hand, and you're, gotcha. They're like squirrels in Central Park. They'll eat right from your hand.
Tacos tonight.
That's it. That's what you bring for bait. They like tacos. So it's what I've heard anyway. I don't know for sure. Obviously, I'm no expert. So on the morning of June 17th, 1970, Condon, accompanied by Isidore Cordova and Richard Barnes, who goes by Dick, by the way.
Yeah, of course he does.
Dick Barnes. Dick Barnes and Isidore and Condom, they all have to go. They have to leave the neighborhood Quonset area, and they have to go to Saltery Cove, to a nearby cove, to get Barnes's truck, which is stuck in the mud. Which, this is a very small town murder activity. There, 3 guys have to go get another guy's truck out of the mud. So that's a lot of mud. Yeah, that's deep if you need 3 guys to do it. So it's all stuck. They left at about 11 a.m. or noon, and they returned to the Quonset hut sometime between 2 and 3 p.m. Okay? Now, when they get there... Jesus Christ, this is such a disaster. When they get there to the Quonset hut, his wife, Mrs. Condom, is there. Yeah. Teenage Mrs. Condom. And Mr. Bean is also there.
Yeah.
Won't say a word.
Yeah.
You go, how you doing, man? And he just like does a bunch of little mime activities and
movements, and then you understand what he means.
Fucking asshole. And everyone's mad at him.
You're mad at him, but you're also laughing, so it's very confusing.
Yeah, but you're also just shaking your head while you're doing it. So they're in the Quonset hut when Condom, Cordova, and Barnes enter, which definitely sounds like a 70s musical trio. I believe they have a soul routine here. Now, Cordova and Bean, even though Cordova lives there, him and Bean left almost immediately to go next door to Bean's Quonset hut. Okay? Now, at that point, Barnes, who is the other roommate that shares with the Condom family, he also leaves shortly after that. Okay? Now, Barnes said he left the Quonset hut to go over to the Bean Quonset hut because Condom began slapping around his wife.
What the fuck, man?
Just in the middle of the Quonset hut at 2 p.m. in front of their roommates and neighbors. He's just beating up his wife and children and everything else. So he was smacking her around, and so nobody liked that. So he didn't want to go get involved. The Barnes said that he, quote, did not want to get involved in a family argument. It's gone beyond family argument at this point.
He's abusing a child, man.
Well, yeah, it's that he's married to, and also
right.
it's so deep. It's so many layers.
Yeah, you can be a grown-up man and tell him that's probably inappropriate.
He's abusing that child. Wait, which part? The fucking her, impregnating her, kidnapping her at a young age,
slapping around.
Slapping her around. Yeah. What are we talking about here? Which part? What am I mad at him for? All of it? Okay, good. So now here's what happens next, okay? There are 2 versions of this story. There is the Condom version, all stuffed into a rubber, and then there is the version of everyone else who was there. So 2 different versions of how things go down here.
His version is vastly outnumbered.
I'm going to say, yeah, you can choose the veracity of whichever version you like. The courts did, but they picked which one they liked better.
Yeah.
But we give everybody their due here. Let's see what he has to say. Maybe it's true. So Condom says, okay, he says that when he, Barnes, and Cordova returned from Saltery Cove, Bean was in his part of the Quonset hut. It's a fucking hut. It's not that big. It's not like
going very far. Yeah.
I was in the East Wing and he was over in our, he has his quarters. It's not like that. It's a hut. Everyone's got this one room. What is there?
Looking at
those beaded curtains in between, or like what's in between them? A sheet hanging down, maybe.
Over in my corner, looking out over the rose garden.
Yeah, there's no windows in this thing. Are you kidding me? No, it's a tin box. So. There might be a window. I have no idea. But either way, I don't think so. For the cold, probably. Just
probably not.
Keep the window out. So he's not happy about Bean being in his part of the Quonset hut, hanging out with Mrs. Condom. Okay?
Oh,
not
around the lady?
That's what he said. He goes, hey, he was hanging out with Mrs. Condom. Now, Bean has his own pregnant wife and 2 kids next door, obviously, but he needs to go over, and I guess, according to Condom, he's trying to romance his teenage bride here.
Yeah. It's a problem.
A lot of good, nice people in this whole mix. This is really wild. So he was in there. Now, after Barnes, Cordova, and Bean left the Quonset hut, Condom says that he noticed at that point, not at first, he noticed at that point that his wife had a black eye that
what the shit?
She didn't have when he left for the Cove.
Uh-huh.
Now, he asked her what happened, and she didn't want to tell him. But then after some prodding and, come on out with it. Yeah. Let's go. Tell you what, you can borrow the car this weekend this is crazy.
I'm not mad at you.
She finally said, well, Mr. Bean approached me sexually. Uh-huh. And when I denied him, Condom says, quote, he hit her in the eye and took advantage of her. So he says that his wife said that Bean punched her and raped her. His next door neighbor with his pregnant wife and kids next door, and her toddler in attendance as well. So that's the story. Okay. Now he then told his wife, God damn it, we're going to go over to his Quonset hut and we're going to sort this out.
Yeah.
and tell him to stay the fuck away from us. That's what we're doing. We're going to go tell him right now, you better not rape my teenage... It's a crime what I do. You don't commit crimes against my already... This is just... The levels here are just getting... Yeah. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. It's too much. So, he said, we're going to go do that. This is about 20 minutes later, by the way. She didn't get as ready as from what he said. Mrs. Condom didn't get ready as fast as Mr. Condom would like her to get ready. Right. So he said that he became angry and merely backhanded her. So it's just a backhand. I mean, think about saying that. Think about the levels of just a backhand. I'm going to tell him he better not rape my wife again. What is fucking happening? This is your story that you're coming out with?
Do you not want your honor defended? What?
Yeah.
Stop curling your hair.
Pat, I'm going to... Yeah. What the fuck? What a lunatic, man. He then loaded a .32 automatic pistol.
Whoa.
So he's going to do that, which he had next to his bed. And he said that he loaded it up, quote, he had it, which I felt that I might need due to the fact of Mr. Bean's temper, violent temper, that I had heard about and can get witnesses to testify about, is what he'll say later on. He's like, people know he's a violent maniac. Obviously, look what he did to my wife. My God. So I needed to have a gun. So he said that he then went over to the Quonset hut where Barnes, Cordova, and Bean were there. He said it was within 2 to 3 minutes, but everybody else said it was 20 minutes. Okay. So as he approached the Quonset hut, he said that Barnes and Mrs. Bean were on the porch. Yeah. Okay. So Mr. Condom asked Mrs. Bean, where's your husband? Yeah. Because I'd sure like to shoot him. Obviously, he didn't say that, but I mean, that's the obvious implication.
Yeah.
Condom at this point says that he never talked to, he didn't even see Mr. Barnes. Mr. Barnes was inside. He's talking to Mrs. Barnes. He said that he stopped on the porch to take his shoes off because he didn't want to, quote, muddy up the floor.
Mrs. Bean.
No. He did that.
Yeah, Condom. He took off his shoes and was talking to Mrs. Bean.
He was talking to Mrs. Bean and Barnes out, or not Mrs. Bean and the other guy out on the porch and asking, where's your husband? Where's Mr. Bean? And then he said, well, I'm going to go in and look for him. But before I go in, even though I'm here with a loaded weapon to confront him about raping my teenage wife, I'm going to take my shoes off because I don't want to, quote, muddy up the floor.
I don't want to fuck up your house.
That's not nice to do. So... Wow. So he takes his shoes off, which is fucking ridiculous. He does that. He opened up the door, and he says he took 2 or 3 steps into the Quonset hut. He said pistol was in his hand at that point.
Oh, he pulled it out.
Okay. He said a pistol was in his hand, pointed at the floor. Now, I guess Timothy Peter Bean goes by Peter, okay? Yeah. Because his next thing is he said, this is his quote, I said, Pete. And he immediately looked up, and as soon as he saw me, he rose and reached for a rifle on the gun rack. I was just standing there. After I had said Pete, he was reaching for the rifle on the gun rack. I said, don't. And at that time, I fired at, a warning shot into the wall, which would have been to Mr. Bean's right at the lower side of the gun rack. He said, no, don't, and fired off, which is the way to get someone to not return fire, is to fire at them. That's how you get them to calm down, is to fire a gun at them.
Firing a gun in my vicinity is not a warning shot. That is, I'm a bad shot, and you better arm yourself and fire back.
Yeah, if you shot one into the ceiling, that would be different. But he shot one in his direction, that would make
Put one in the floor.
Be like, I better unload whatever I have. So that's his story at that point. He said that after he fired the warning shot, he said pregnant Mrs. Bean came into her Quonset hut and gathered up her children and took them out of the room.
What is this?
The children. He came in the house.
There are children in there.
And fired a fucking bullet across a room with 2 small children in it.
Wow.
I don't give a shit if you was a warning. You can't do that. That's crazy time. I get that it's Alaska. It's 1970. Yeah. There's bears, I suppose. Yeah. That's fine. But you can't just do this. You can't shoot shit. So he said he did all of this. He said she took the children out of the room. She said during this time, Bean, because when she came in and took the kids out, that kind of put a pause on everything. Like, hey, time out, car, okay, time in.
Game on.
Game on. So during this time, Bean used this to load his rifle. Mr. Bean slaps the magazine in his rifle, which is words you probably never thought you'd hear before. Mr. Bean then loaded his rifle.
He's about to destroy Whistler's mother.
That's the Bean movie I want to see, where Bean's had enough. Bean's seeking vengeance against some kind of terrorists or something, and he's going on like a Bond mission where he's...
The acetone that ruined the painting, he just shoots a hole in it, and now there's a hole in the painting.
Bean's at a black site in Turkmenistan, torturing a member of ISIS for information. Hey, everybody, just going to take a quick break from the show to tell you about the safest sponsor ever, Simply Safe. Absolutely. These people will keep you safe. It's amazing. You know that every 26 seconds a burglary takes place in the United States, according to the FBI. That means that by the time this podcast is over, dozens and dozens of homes will have been targeted, ransacked. God knows what happens here. So protect your home before it's too late with Simply Safe proactive security system. Simply Safe helps stop threats before they even have a chance to break in. Named Best Home Security System by U.S. News and World Report 5 years in a row. And by us for about the last 8 years as well. If you trust us, believe me, you want Simply Safe. So visit simplysafe.com/small to claim 50% off a new system with professional monitoring plan and your first month free. That's simplysafe.com/small. There's no safe like Simply Safe.
Now back to the show.
This show, Small Town Murder, is brought to you by BetterHelp. Get yourself some therapy, everybody. Honestly, here. We often hear about, red flags that you should avoid. Hey, that's a lot of a thing. It's become a real phrase now, real cliche. But why don't you focus also, you look at like green flags in friends and partners. Look for good things as well. Right. And maybe you're not sure what that looks like, though. Therapy can help you figure that out. What are positive things? What are the green flags? And then you can practice them in your relationship. It's absolutely a fact. And so, honestly, we absolutely are huge advocates for this. It really, really helps. BetterHelp is fully online, making therapy affordable. It's convenient. They serve over 5 million people worldwide. You can access a diverse network of more than 30,000 credentialed therapists, wide ranges of specialties there. Here's the coolest part. You're not getting along with your therapist, you're just not feeling it, you can switch at any time, no extra charge.
Wow.
The thing is, they want you to get help. That's it. And you can do it with BetterHelp. Discover your relationship green flags with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/smalltownmurder today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/smalltownmurder.
Now back to the show.
So, Jesus Christ, condom, what a fucking idiot. So as he's loading it up, Bean's loading up the rifle. Mrs. Bean then came back in and approached her husband, according to Condom, and said to him, quote, "Don't, he's got a gun." And so
I know.
Yeah, I get that. He just bucked a shot off in a tin Quonset hut. I heard it. Right. Trust me.
There was a bullet inside here. It's now outside.
I see that hole that I can see clear through to the next Quonset hut. That's that. So Stone, he's got a gun, and according to Condom, Mr. Bean pushed Mrs. Bean out of the way and started to turn toward him with the gun. He was like, "Out of my way, bitch, I'm going to kill him," and turned with the gun. At this point, Condom said that he had no choice but to fire the fatal shot into Mr. Bean. And he said that he believed himself in danger when Bean swung around with the rifle, and he had to shoot him. Never mind that you barged in his house with a gun and fired a shot off. That's the ultimate, hey, I should probably return fire to you because you barged in my house with a gun. That's a bad thing.
You're in danger that you just created.
Yeah, you made the danger, exactly. Right. That's like, I robbed this 7-Eleven and the guy had a gun back there. Next thing I know, he's shooting at me. I'm like, hey, chill out, man. Like, what the fuck? So now here is Cordova's story, Isidore Cordova. Here's his story. And this is kind of all of their stories in one, just kind of use it through Cordova here. And this is what I assume is probably what actually really fucking happened. Cordova and Barnes and all that, it's basically everything's the same. They left They left in the morning, go get the truck out of the mud, and came back. That's about the only thing they all agree on.
Okay.
Okay. And they went into the Quonset hut, and Bean was sitting in the Quonset hut with Mrs. Condom, and then the three of them went over to the Quonset hut, and then that's when the stories diverge, okay? He's saying that Condom didn't come over till 20 minutes later. So he sat and deliberated about it. Condom said it was no more than 2 to 3 minutes because he was waiting for his wife to get ready. She didn't get ready fast enough. He, quote, merely backhanded her, loaded up his 32 and left. Meanwhile, it's 20 minutes. So 20 minutes is a lot of time for deliberation. That's why those things matter. You know what I mean?
It's enough time to cool off or consider what you're about to do.
Exactly. That makes it go from that ups a degree of murder is what that does. If you had a chance to think about it. Yeah. So it's about 15 to 20 minutes later. They say that Condom walked towards the Quonset hut carrying his pistol out. So he walked over to it with his gun out, ready already, which is a sign of aggression, I would say. Barnes said that he was standing on the porch with Mrs. Bean. That's the stories match up there. When he saw Condom coming with his wife in tow, Mrs. Condom is behind him, I'm sure trailing at a reasonable distance, whatever he allows her to trail at. He said that Mrs. Condom had blood on her and her hair was all fucked up.
Oh, my.
Which is not how she looked 20 minutes earlier when they came into the Quonset hut, and she didn't have her hair was not fucked up and she didn't have blood all over her. Okay. So she looked like she's been through the ringer in the last 20 minutes. Okay. Now, Cordova says that this is all they're taking in this scene as it comes. He's got a gun. She looks like she got the shit beaten out of him. And they're like, whoa, something's coming down here. This is like in Tombstone. There's a lot of eye contact being made back and forth. People are itching at their holsters. This is getting weird. So Barnes then asks Condom, hey, where are you going? And Condom looked at him and said, Dick, meaning Richard. He's Richard, so he said, Dick, he fucked my wife, meaning Mr. Bean. Dick, he fucked my wife. So Mrs. Bean is out on the porch, and Condom asked her where's your husband? And Mrs. Bean said, inside. I would have said, not home, would have been the better response. She said, he's in there.
Or why?
Yeah, he's coming up with his beat-up teenage wife holding a gun saying that he fucked my wife. So if you're telling him, you're, I guess, wanting him to go in and shoot him. I don't know. That's what it seems like.
He's in there. You guys could sort it out.
Yeah, not my fucking problem at that point. So Cordova says that after he and... they all, when they were there, I guess at this point, supper was being cooked too. They were cooking dinner. Mrs. Bean was cooking dinner. So I guess when he came in, when Mr. Condom came in, Mr. Bean was lying face down on 2 or 3 cushions on the living room couch, playing with the children, drinking coffee and smoking a cigarette. So he's like laying on his stomach with his arm hanging off the couch, playing with the kids.
Yeah.
And, smoking and drinking a cup of coffee or whatever. So not in an aggressive position at all.
They're very, very vulnerable.
Yeah, and I guess Cordova was sitting next to him. That's how Cordova knows how all this went down. Condom entered the house mad and crying. And holding a gun.
Yeah.
So this is all very dangerous, okay? Cordova said that Condom pointed the gun toward Mr. Bean, and he said it was like it was like he was hypnotized, you just couldn't believe what was going on right now. Like he said it was just everybody was just kind of frozen, like what the fuck is going on here? This is not at all what they expect to happen. Now Cordova says that Mr. Condom said, quote, Pete, if you fuck around with my wife again, I'll kill you. And then he fired a shot into the wall. So it was like a warning shot. Around
morning,
this,
kids.
Yeah, morning. Oh, hi everybody. Smells delicious, Mrs. Bean.
We got some gourmet coffee. That's not that freeze dried taster's choice.
This is some gourmet shit here. So yeah, this is what's going on. And then Bean stood up to get his rifle and made a motion. I guess Cordova says he touched it, but it never left the rack.
Oh.
Like he was like, I got my hand on it, like, hey, whatever. He said at this time, Condom fired another bullet, And Cordova said, I thought at first he was hit on the shoulder because he threw his shoulder back, meaning Bean, but he wasn't. I heard that it hit the aorta, hit him right in the fucking pow.
Right in the heart?
Right in the artery there. Yeah, not good. So after the second shot was fired, Cordova and Barnes jumped up and fucking tried to tackle Condom to get the gun out of his hand because you don't know if he's going to slaughter everybody now. There's kids around. What the fuck are you doing? So during the struggle, the gun goes off again. Boom. Luckily, doesn't hit anybody, thank fuck. Because it's just a wayward shot, you know what I mean? So in the middle of all this, there's a big struggle, a 3-man struggle. I mean, this is an action scene, man. Fucking gun firing off in a quonset hut. It's very loud. Then Barnes, in the middle of the struggle, looks over and grabs a kerosene lamp. Which, how many kerosene lamps are sitting in your living room right now? Well, if you don't live in a quonset hut, I guess maybe not. So he grabs a kerosene lamp and wallops Condom over the head with a kerosene lamp, soaking him
lit.
No. Okay. Soaking him in kerosene and getting glass and metal all over him because it's a glass tube. It's, you know, not good. So eventually, after being bashed with the kerosene lamp and having 2 people fight with him, Condom finally lets go of the gun. Now Cordova goes over to where Mr. Bean had been shot, and he said that Bean appears unconscious at that point. Cordova tells Condom, go for help, asshole. You shot him. Fucking go for help. And tells Barnes to go over to your Quonset hut and, quote, hide the other guns that were there.
Oh, my God.
Because he's got his own guns and this guy's got. So he's like, hey, if you don't want your guns taken with this idiot, hide all your guns because I'm sure everybody's got a criminal record and I'm sure nobody's allowed to have weapons up here in this whole camp. So, eventually the security police from the nearby naval station arrive and that's who's around. There's no cops here.
So lawless.
This is like NCIS comes over there and is like, hey, guys, how you doing? Fucking Mark Harmon shows up. So finally, after a little while, a state trooper finally shows up because they have some state troopers. And he, quote, determined that Bean was dead. Well, yeah, you've been waiting an hour. Of course he's dead by now. We could have told you that an hour from before. That's why we called you, stupid.
He determined the floor to be mucked up.
Yeah, to be a little muddy, to be muddied up. So they took Condom into custody, obviously, here. He was saying it's self-defense. He grabbed for his gun, but there's obviously there's a dead guy here. He's taken to the Kodiak City Jail and held in lieu of $7,500 bond. That seems light for a murder, no?
I don't know. It might be funnier if they held him in lieu of $500 bond, and he couldn't raise that.
He can't raise it. No, he can't. He can't raise that. He can't raise shit.
Yeah.
So in court, he's a character in court, boy. This is when we get some of the craziest shit. Now,
oh boy, in
court, this is a conversation he has with a judge. Okay, and it's wonderful. And the way he's talking is clearly it's almost like he has a script, and he's like, I'm going to sound not dumb. Okay. He says, quote, it's my understanding that my attorney has approached you for a postponement or a continuance of my hearing, and you have denied this. May I ask why?
Perhaps I may inquire.
Now, does a man who lives in a Quonset hut in the woods with his teenage bride talk like that? Who shares a Quonset hut in the woods with 2 other men and his teenage bride talk like that?
Who the fuck asks that question when that is your lifestyle? You're tied to nothing.
May I ask why? The court here, this is the judge says, quote, I told Mr. Johnson, who's his attorney, to make every effort to get ready, and if he could, that this included my intervention to allow Mr. Johnson to have access to the information in the district attorney's files. He has advised me that he's ready to proceed and under the circumstances will proceed. Little background here. The judge, once he got arrested, he set and arraigned and everything, he set a court date for like 10 days later because there's not a lot of court going on in Kodiak, and this is a murder. So he sets it for like 10 days later, and Condom's complaint is that the lawyer assigned to him didn't have enough time to prepare for the trial.
Yeah.
And The judge said, well, I asked him if he was prepared, and he told me all the things he did, and that's all the things you can do to prepare, and he says he's comfortable and ready to proceed. So if everyone says they're comfortable and everyone says they're prepared, we're going. Like,
on
just 'cause,
three. Yeah.
You don't think he's prepared. You're also a guy who lives in a fucking quonset hut. What are we talking about? You're not a lawyer.
And break.
And so Mr. Condom says, quote, well, Your Honor, as far as I'm concerned, which is the first time he's ever said that probably, I've gained nothing by defending through this attorney, Mr. Johnson, and do care to dismiss him at this time. Do care to dismiss him at this time? And he talks like Doc Holliday. He talks like Val Kilmer and being Doc Holliday. And at this time, and would like for the court, if it pleases the court, for the court to appoint me another attorney. If it pleases the court.
It does not please the court. It pleases you.
So the judge says, well, I'm going to deny that application.
I'd rather not.
So here comes Mr. Condom again. Another thing is what he says. I've not had the chance to properly discuss this case with my attorney. He went to Kodiak. He talked to witnesses and things of that sort. I asked him to take me with him. He did not do this. I asked him to talk to certain people up there. He did not. He's also an acquaintance with one of my state's witnesses against me, Isidore Cordova, who is a homosexual.
So?
What fucking difference? I guess in 1970 that disqualified you from society. Oh, he's a homo. He can't be trusted then. You know. I wonder what the guy cruising scene is like in the Alaskan quonset hut wilderness.
in the backwoods of Alaska.
Yeah. I assume it's like gold prospecting. Nothing. Jackpot, brawny man. Like, I don't know. What are the?
It's so lonesome out there. You might catch a lot of cock. You might
you would. Yeah,
it might be
true.
Fruitful.
It might be good times. Maybe he's got it right. I don't know. I'm just saying. If I was to go to like a lumber camp looking for chicks, that wouldn't be the smartest thing.
Yeah.
So. You go where people that you want are. So he said that, Isidore Cordova, who is a homosexual, and it's my understanding that when he was up in Kodiak, he talked to Mr. Cordova, but not in regards to my case. They just had like is he implying a relationship between? He just implied a relationship, right? Between his attorney and Cordova?
Gotta be.
Why else would you mention that? He said he saw him, my gay friend, and he didn't even talk to him about the case. Wink, wink.
What the fuck else could they have been talking about?
They just they just drank some Cosmos and had girl talk. What are we talking about? That's what no, you fucking idiot. What a jackass. He said, I talked to Mr. Cordova, not in regards to my case. He only spoke with the trooper and Mr. Barnes. He didn't attempt to locate my wife or any of the people on my behalf for defense in my behalf.
Okay.
So the judge says, quote, just a minute. Hang on there, Condom. Wait a minute here. He says, I've been kept abreast of Mr. Johnson. I'm aware of what he's done. He's had access to the information in the district attorney's files. I understand they've been made available. Is that correct? And he asks the district attorney, and he says, yes, it has. And the judge says, at my request, he's devoted his sole attention to preparing this case since the last time you appeared here, and it was necessary to relieve the public defender's office and appoint Mr. Johnson. Because he appointed him, this lawyer is not a public defender. He's a pay lawyer that the court appointed to the thing here. So he's not even got a public defender. He doesn't have a public defender. Then he said, I've asked Mr. Johnston, this is the judge still, and he's assured me that he's given up everything else that he could in order to prepare for this case, and he's ready to go this morning. So we get into it. And Condom testifies on his own behalf, by the way, like a moron.
You have to, right?
Yeah, it's your story versus everyone else's around.
You've got to be more believable than them.
Than women, children, your friends, you're a gay guy. Oh, God. That was insane. So Condom's testimony was that he only backhanded his wife, first of all. It's way overblown that she was bloody and her hair was messed up. He just backhanded her, and then they walked over there. That's what he said. Come on. How bad is that? He's like,
she
whatever.
Wasn't punctual. Come on.
Meanwhile, everybody else said that she told them that he beat her with a belt buckle in the head, producing the bruises and the cuts, and then pistol whipped her as well.
Oh, God.
That's what he did. And he said, I just backhanded her. Meanwhile, she was all busted up. So the prosecutor here figured he would say that. And the problem is they really would love to call Mrs. Condom in there, but they claim marital privilege. And they can't. She's not allowed to testify.
And she's terrified anyway.
Yeah, she's not allowed to testify because I'm sure he would. I don't know if he would force her to lie or what, but instead he forced her not to testify. Basically, said, "No, we have marital privilege. You can't have that." So
stay out of this.
They couldn't compel her to testify.
Wow.
I think marital privilege only applies if you're an adult. Can we say that? How about that? Is that a deal we can all make? Only with adults. If you marry children, they can testify against you. I think that's a really little loophole that we can have. Yeah. At that point, they have to. So, they wanted to. They tried to, but it wouldn't work. So they said that this is the record here. This is from the court document. Yeah. They say that basically the prosecutor's trying to get him to admit to doing more than backhanding his wife. And this is the question and answer that goes on back and forth between him and an attorney when Condom's on the stand. Attorney, as a matter of fact, the district attorney this is, as a matter of fact, Mr. Condon, isn't it true that what really happened was you went into your bedroom and saw some spots on your bed which caused you to be suspicious? And he says, no, sir. That's the answer. So the prosecutor says, isn't that true? That's the first indication you had? And he said, no, sir. Prosecutor says, and isn't it true that after you came out and demanded of your wife whether or not she had had intercourse and she denied it, isn't that true? And he says, no, sir. Prosecutor says, and isn't it true, Mr. Condon, that from that time forward you beat her with a belt buckle, the hard end of a belt buckle, and with your hands, and with other objects until she admitted to you, and there's an objection, and it's overruled, and he says, you hit her with a pistol, didn't you? And he says, no, sir. So, that's a lot.
So they've got a pretty good story of what really happened. They didn't even sleep together.
That's questionable.
It's questionable.
That probably happened, but from all indications. But, I mean, it's what happens in quonset life. That's it, man. It's,
Yeah, everybody's everybody.
It's what are you going to do? It's the life of a quonset. So the prosecutor then shows a series of photographs which depicts Mrs. Condom with bruises and shit all over her face and body. She looks like she got in a car accident, and he's like, I backhanded her once. Like, yeah, right, bro. Come on. Photographs. Yeah, they were admitted into evidence. They tried to object to it. It's irrelevant. It's prejudicial. It's like, well, yeah, that's the point. He's an asshole. Then the prosecutor goes on to have this conversation with you. And quote, and on still other times, isn't it true you've determined that the best way to get along with this young girl, meaning his wife, is to beat her every once in a while? And he says, no, sir. Then he says, and how old is your wife now, Mr. Condom? And they object, and it's overruled. And he says, quote, the best line ever, she'll be 18 in December. Now,
minus one.
He's minus that. Now the prosecutor says, quote, she was 13 when you were married in any event.
What?
13.
Unbelievable.
13. And isn't it a fact that you made a special trip into Virginia in order to marry her for 4 hours? You were in Virginia for 4 hours so that you knew. So that you knew you couldn't marry this young child anywhere else.
Yeah.
And he said, no, sir, which is actually false. That is what happened. So he took her to Virginia and married her when she was 13 years old.
Across so many state lines.
13. So it's illegal to take a minor across state lines unless you're going there to marry them. Then it's fine. Right.
Can you do that?
13.
Can you get prosecuted for every state line?
I would hope so. 13.
That should be at least 14 cases of interstate travel.
Right? I can't even fathom 13.
Oh, my God. You've got so many states to change your mind. That's gross, man.
13's a young child. 13 is
a baby.
Not. Yeah. There's guys that'll be like, 14, James. This girl, she's 16. She said she's 22. I thought she was 25. And
you didn't.
if she's 13, you certainly didn't think she was a fucking adult, or she doesn't know 13-year-olds don't seem like an adult. You're into that because you like kids. That's what you're into. That's a
Where
child.
Where did you find her? Where are her parents? What the fuck?
I assume if they allowed her to go to fucking Virginia when she was 13 and be married, then they're not really doing very well anyway. So, holy shit. They get into his defense, and they show they have a electroencephalograph. That's what it's called. Nice. It's a brain scan. It shows that he has organic brain damage. I could have told you that just by everything that's going on here. The medical opinion said that the brain damage made the defendant prone to seizures and often associated with abnormal behavior. A psychiatrist's opinion, based on the exam, showed that he was not insane but had a compulsive personality marked by strong emotional instability. Yeah. Sounds right. The record indicates that he has been drinking heavily prior to the homicides and was hypersensitive to alcohol as well. Yeah. So at trial, the defense called no witnesses, really. That was just through opening and closing statements. They put out their thing, and him testifying as well, other than him. They called no witnesses as to his mental state, is what they called. And the psychiatrist didn't consult with him during the trial at all. This was post-trial they did this. They said the defense is that he did not have the necessary intent for first-degree murder, but, basically it was a crazy accident that happened, just a crazy thing when guys fuck each other's wives and then play with guns. So, he's off. He also says that, organic brain damage. I mean, come on, look at this. What, are we kidding me? Jesus. So the court, this is wild too. The court delayed about 20 minutes after learning that the bean and him and his wife fucking thing. They had to take a break because the whole court got all like in a tizzy over it.
It's fucked up, man.
So, they said they were going over there. They figure the jury ends up, it can't take that long to figure this out. The prosecutor said, we think that the range of reasonable inferences which could have been drawn from this evidence permitted the issues of his premeditation and malice, So basically, you can see what he fucking did. You know what he did. Verdict comes in, goddamn guilty.
Yeah.
Fuck off. I mean, please, Jesus Christ here. Yeah. So in sentencing, the trial judge has quite a lot to say, and it's fucking wonderful. This is a good you, sir, may fuck off. He says, the minimum sentence established by law is 15 years. The maximum sentence, of course, is up to life. First, as I understand, there's one prior conviction of a violation of the Dyer Act. What the fuck that is. I consider it under the circumstances here, there was some provocation prior to the shooting of Mrs. Condon. Prior to the shooting, Mrs. Condon admitted to sexual relationship with the deceased. Thereafter, the defendant administered a beating to his wife, armed himself, and went to the Quonset hut occupied by the deceased and his family. I've reviewed the statements, excluding the statement of the defendant, because he's a jerk-off, obviously, and I've reviewed the psychiatric report. The conclusions of the psychiatrist are these: superficial charm, an absence of delusions, may be somewhat paranoid, shows little anxiety. The individual is unreliable, often will convince others of his reliability, then repeat the act. He is unusually truthful, but convinces others of his untruthful. He's unusually untruthful, but convinces others of his sincerity. So he lies convincingly, showing a lack of remorse or shame about an act, and will often brag about it. Often exhibits antisocial behavior, is inadequately motivated. Main excuses are offered for failure. Judgment is poor, fails to learn by experience. This is the small town murder resume here to be on the show. Often
like the brain power of a 3-year-old.
Oh yeah, he's got a complete impulse. He's like a teenager. Often humanistic, usually has limited capacity to love others, showing a strong self-love. To love others, showing a strong self-love. Often shows the general poverty in sharing major catastrophic situations involving others. has a specific loss of insight with little awareness of the trouble he causes others, responds poorly in any personal relationship, shows other interests and does not want to get too involved, often will get drunk and act out sexually with attachments or casual, may be homosexual or heterosexual, often job jumper, that is, gets mad, blows up, and quits.
Yep.
Okay. He goes on to say, I don't consider any statement or opinion by the arresting officer as being of any significance, and I combine my facts and the conclusions upon which I draw for the purpose of sentencing to the psychiatric report to the statements of what I've heard in the trial case. I think the conclusions of the psychiatrist are borne out to a considerable degree. All that sounds reasonable from what I've heard is what he just said. All of that shit that he just read, none of that's good.
Yeah. It's all
that's
bad
a
stuff.
terrible murderer personality.
Yes.
Doesn't give a fuck about people.
Danger to society. Yeah.
Danger to everyone. Absolutely. So he says all of this. He says, I think the conclusions are borne out to a considerable degree. During the events that led to the shooting, 2 children and the wife of the deceased and Isidore Cordova were present. The manner in which the defendant conducted himself created an extreme danger to those persons as well as the object of his anger. I take into consideration the seriousness of all of the act itself. Homicide is always a matter of the utmost gravity. I've taken into consideration the provocation and have indicated the psychiatric report and the statements in the testimony. I believe in this instant that the deterrent factor has to be strongly considered, that taking these factors into consideration, it's my judgment that you, sir, may fuck off 20 years in jail.
Wow.
20. Seems like,
that is so light.
Well, he took into account that the guy reached for a gun.
Yeah.
Now, whether he caused that or not, at that moment, he said, okay, that maybe you brought it over to scare him, and then it got out of control. So we'll give you the benefit of that doubt. We're not going to give you the minimum, but you're not getting the maximum either.
Yeah.
I think you give him extra just for having a fucking wife that he married when he was 13. I'm going to tack on an extra 20 for that, even though I'm going to say it's for this, but in my mind, it's for that. I know what I did it for.
Feels like that judge has been cheated on, and he's like, yeah, I can see it.
I mean, I get it.
Found pecker tracks in my bed, too.
It happens. I've seen puddles. So he tries to appeal on the grounds of ineffective assistance of counsel, saying his counsel didn't have time to get ready, what he was arguing about in the beginning, and they said, sure he did. Fuck you. So 1984, he goes on a hunger strike.
Okay.
To protest certain prison conditions. It was Roland Shufty, who's serving a 30-year sentence for murder, James Condom, serving a 20-year sentence for murder and probation violation, and Peter Matameek, who's serving a 2-year sentence for burglary.
He's going on a hunger strike?
Is going on a hunger strike.
Bud. You'll be out in a minute.
They asked to see, they said there's a lack of hot water there, and more officers need to be assigned for safety, and that the shift supervisor should visit maximum security at least once a day, and that inmates with severe medical problems should not be placed in maximum security, and also delays in sending out mail. Okay. Within a week, the Matameek guy dropped out of the hunger strike, and then 2 days later, Condom dropped out of the hunger strike. Yeah. And then the one guy was still there. They asked the officers, are you going to have to force feed the last guy? And they said, no. In fact, Mr. Shufty has gained 2 pounds. So
he's lying his ass off.
I don't know what he's doing. At some point, he must have gotten out of prison, obviously, for 20 years. Yeah. And the only thing I could find in 2019, I found a foreclosure on a trailer under the name James A. Condon in Sitka, Alaska.
Oh, he's still there.
So it might be him, but there was also there was a James A. Condon who was a politician in the 60s and 70s. That's who I kept finding when I did find Condon. And so that might be part. But if not, I don't know if that politician would have a trailer repossessed over $194.08 in back owed money. That's what it was owed for.
That's a win for the bank. I feel like you'll get more than $200 out of that.
Probably, because they foreclosed. That's all we know about it. Either way, that's Kodiak, Alaska, everybody.
Stunning. What a story.
is Small Town Murder Express. That is crazy Alaskan Quonset hut insanity. If you like that show, tell the world about it. Get on whatever app you're listening on. Give us 5 stars. It really does help the show. It helps drive us up the charts, so we do appreciate that. Also, head over to social media. Follow us there at Murder Small on Twitter, at Smalltown Pod on Facebook, at Smalltown Murder on Instagram. Head over to shutupandgivememurder.com. Get all your, first of all, your merchandise. The Pam and Lamb Ham Band Jam Band shirts are up. Get those. And also, of course, get your tickets to live shows. Yeah. Come see us fucking jam. Do your thing. Come out. Come see us September the 10th at the Pabst in Milwaukee. Yep. It's going to be our biggest show ever. Be a part of it. The theater's beautiful. We can't fucking wait. And then also Florida later on in the month. We are in Tampa at the Improv. 2 shows in one night. Next night, 2 shows at the Orlando Improv. Come see us there. We can't wait to do all this shit. So check us out. We're going to have a lot of fun with that. Patreon.com/CrimeInSports is where you get all your bonus episodes. And we put up bonus episodes consistently. Anybody $5 or above, you're going to get access to all of it. Crime and Sports and Small Town Murder. Murder this week, what you're going to get. For Crime and Sports this week, you're going to get Brett Favre's dick pic scandal. Yeah. First of all, his little deal there, and that little deal there. And then from also a few other sports sex scandals, like a female golfer who apparently allegedly forced her male caddy to impregnate her, or he would lose his job. That's an interesting one. And a couple other ones there. And then for Small Town Murder, we're going to talk about 2 of the worst people ever, Leonard Lake and Charles Eng, in their own words. You know how we do it. Just a little bit different than everybody else. We'll talk about it in a very weird way. That said, do all of that. Patreon.com/Crime and Sports. Listen, of course, on Wednesdays or Thursdays, the Small Town Murder regular. Crime and Sports on Tuesdays. Keep coming back and seeing us all the time. Follow us on social media. Holy shit. Until next week, everybody.
Yes.
It's been our pleasure.
Bye.
If you like Small Town Murder, you can listen early and ad-free now by joining Wondery Plus in the Wondery app or on Apple Podcasts. Prime members can listen early and ad-free on Amazon Music. Before you go, tell us about yourself by filling out a short survey at Wondery.com/survey.
He was hip-hop's biggest mogul, the man who redefined fame, fortune, and the music industry.
The first male rapper to be honored on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, Sean Diddy Combs.
Diddy built an empire and lived a life most people only dream about.
Everybody know ain't no party like a Diddy party, so.
Yeah, that's what's up.
But just as quickly as his empire rose, it came crashing down.
Today I'm announcing the unsealing of a 3-count indictment, charging Sean Combs with racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, interstate transportation for prostitution.
I was up. I hit rock bottom, but I made no excuses. I'm disgusted. I'm so sorry.
Until you're wearing an orange jumpsuit, it's not real. Now it's real.
From his meteoric rise to his shocking fall from grace, from law and crime, this is the rise and fall of Diddy. Listen to the rise and fall of Diddy exclusively with Wondery Plus